Hello from Gardening at Dwensa in Ireland, and this video is a trip around my kitchen to see the houseplants that are looking good this cold December day. So in a second we're going to go around and have a look at all of these plants in a bit more detail. But this tour is going to encompass a couple of things. It's going to encompass my orchids in bloom, which are the ones that we have over here on that table. It's going to encompass an update on my cheese plant, which so many of you have asked about. I'm going to show you some nice pots I bought for my Streptocarpus in Portugal recently, and just various other houseplants. Okay, I think I'm going to start over here on the right, which is where we come in by the door, and there isn't a whole lot on this windowsill. At the top we have one of my Streptocarpuses, which is asleep. I mean, they don't do anything in winter, and I don't have any of them in flower at the moment, but that's okay. And next door to it we have this wonderful trailing plant. Now this has gorgeous orange flowers. It's called Columnea, and it was given to me as a cutting a while ago by a very kind gentleman on a forum, and it really is the most beautiful plant. Now he did give this to me on one condition, and the condition was that I share it. So for the first person in the EU to put a comment down below claiming a cutting from this plant, I'll send you off a cutting once the danger of frost has passed. A promise is a promise after all. And moving down from that lovely plant, we have some begonias here. A begonia, can't think of the name of this off the top of my head, but it's a very pretty pink one that my son Josh gave as a present to me. Again, as usual with all my videos, a full list of the plants mentioned in the video can be seen in the details. And next door to it we have a little variegated agave that I rescued during my time in Portugal over Christmas, and it actually has a few little roots, so I'd be hopeful that does well. Of course it's tiny, so it's going to take an age for it to do anything, but well, so it goes. And next door to that we have the Bromeliad that Bjorn sent me earlier this year, which, I mean, it's not doing much, but well, it's hanging in there, so that's all good news. And it has lovely variegated leaves, so it makes a nice house plant. And thank you again, Bjorn. And leaving behind that window, we come to this cabinet here, where I have a lot of Streptocarpus. And as I mentioned earlier, they are not in flower at the moment because they don't flower in winter. And very soon I'm going to have to do a major repotting job on mine, so I might make a video about it again, even though I have made a repotting video for Streptocarpus in the past. Now, when I was in Portugal, I picked up these beautiful ceramic vases, and they were like €1.95 or something, which is really good value, and they're square, and I had my Streptocarpus in mind when I got them, so I think they do the job very well there. Above it we have Begonia sizemoreae, which is a glorious species begonia, and it's variegated, as we can see by this mottled appearance on the leaf, and has such a variety of whiskers on it. It's like a teenage boy who's forgotten to shave, but it's a lovely plant and it's doing really well there. Okay, and then I suppose, well, we need to mention the elephant in the room, or not the elephant, the Monstera in the room. And this is the cheese plant you saw me repot some time ago. And I built it as a 32-year-old Monstera deliciosa that was, to be repotted. It had been my mother's and had been in the same pot for more than 20 years. And it was a great big job to repot it. Now, it's doing quite well, but If you can imagine the true potential of these plants, you'll understand that this one is actually runted to a certain extent by being held in such a small pot. Now, when I say such a small pot, it's not small by houseplant terms, but it certainly is small in terms of what this plant might want in the wild. Now, it's an epiphytic one, which you can tell by that array of roots just hanging around there with nowhere to go. And I have it potted because it's the only way you can sensibly keep such a plant indoors. I'm just going to take a little pause here because I saw something absolutely magnificent when I was on holidays over Christmas in Portugal, and it was one of these plants grown outdoors. And just take a look at this photo. There, wasn't that an absolute treat? I was so in awe when I saw that fantastic plant there, and wow, to live in a place where you could grow that outdoors around your door. But I don't, so I have to keep my Monstera indoors. Now this one is doing quite good. It is getting enough light, which we can tell by the fact that the leaves have developed their true cheese-like appearance, which means that they're split. If the plant doesn't get enough light, then it produces leaves without these splits in it, and really doesn't look half as attractive as it should. And I'm just looking for an example of such a leaf, which I am failing to find when you want. You can never find what you're looking for when you want to, can you? But yeah, so it's doing okay. Obviously it wants to be bigger. Obviously it wants to be outdoors in Portugal or somewhere warmer, but it can't. So I think, well, what I have to do is try and keep it at this size because I really can't afford to let it get any bigger. Okay, so that was my Monstera deliciosa, 32 years of age when it got repotted recently, and hopefully it'll be due for another 32 years with me. Directly above it we have Cattlianthe Blossom Bounty, which featured in flower recently in my video about the 3 sizes of Cattleya in flower, and it's finished now. So leaving that aside, we will travel over here to behind the Monstera, where we see my Hippeastrum papilio, or Amaryllis papilio, which is an incorrect name. And we have a flower spike. Now, I'm delighted to get a flower spike on this evergreen papilio this year because I divided it. I removed 2 small bulbs off it for some good friends this year, and it decided to sulk as a result of that and decided to lose all its leaves. And of course it's an evergreen amaryllis, so that wasn't terribly good news. But in autumn, when I brought it indoors, before very long it started growing leaves again, and I thought, okay, well, it's all right, but it's not going to flower for me this year, until lo and behold, up it sends this flower spike. So next time I make a video, I'm sure I'm going to be showing you this one in flower again. And I'm going to link just above to a video I made about this glorious plant in flower, because it really is the queen of the Hippeastrums, in my opinion anyway. So up above here we have some plants that are hard to show off because of the light. The very back we have my big Prosthechea cochleata, which flowers and flowers and flowers with lots of spikes. One of them is finished, but I have 3 or 4 or something. I'm not even going to bother counting. I'm not blasé about this plant. It does so well for me. And here we have Gongora, galeata, which I bought in Madeira 2 years ago, and it flowered for me this year, but not for very long, because this is one that really needs to be kept moist, especially if you want the flowers to last any length of time. We have some air plants, the long one I've had for a while, and a little chain of various ones here, including a couple that I bought from Josh, and this was the most common one he was selling in his mini company, the argentea. Up here, trailing around some nails, we have my one and only Hoya. No, actually, I do think I have some more cuttings out in the greenhouse. And it flowered recently, not doing a whole lot at the moment, but I'm quite pleased with how I've trailed it here along the snail, and I think it looks very well, kind of greening up this whole space here, so I'm pleased with that. And now we're going to move down this shelving unit here on the left hand side, and first stop is with this noid Cattlianthe, which is orange and pink and has featured on numerous occasions with me, but this year has only deigned to give me one flower. And yeah, so the roots and everything are fine now at this stage, so I think it'll do better next year. Moving down, we have my fancy fowl collection, and any of you who watched my recent live broadcasting with Astrid will have noticed that I asked Astrid if I was allowed to join the Fancy Fowl Club when I was online with her there, and she said I was in, so you know, there's nothing you can do about it now. The most exciting news is the Phal equestris. This one here has a little teeny tiny bud which refuses to come into focus, but is working hard on plumping up, so before long I should have some flowers there. And two spikes behind on the patens, yeah, that I got from Alberto in Italy. Thank you, Alberto. And this one here, of course, came from Bumblebee. Thank you, Bumblebee. The one I got recently from Schwerter, the Corninja cross, has a couple of spikes in there. And, well, there'll be a big celebration when that one actually flowers. I'm really looking forward to it. And we'll come back to that in due course. So moving down, we have a Begonia I grew from cuttings, and if I get a chance at some stage, I really should make a video on Streptocarpus from leaf cuttings or Begonias from leaf cuttings, a proper comprehensive one, because it really is a doddle, really is easy enough to do if I just get round to it. But it's a nice one with the dark leaves. And down below we have the Cattleya I got recently from Schwerto, Chancy General CT Samuel, which flowered recently and featured in my video on the Cattleyas of 3 sizes, this one being the smaller size. And it's in that chicken holder. And down below we have Begonia. Beautiful one, look at that. It's like treacle cake. I just want to get my teeth into it. Now this one is called, where's it gone? Yeah, Curly Flower Flush. And I picked it up from Dibley's nursery when I visited there, gosh, last year maybe? Anyway, I'm going to link to that video up above when I visited Dibley's Streptocarpus nursery, but they also do a grand variety of begonias, and this one really just jumped out for me and, well, jumped into my trolley and came home with me. So we've now talked about things over on that side and this shelving unit here and what's at the top. Ooh, except for one plant I forgot. I'm going to now deal with the orchids in bloom on the table. But before I do, I will mention my Rodriguezia orchid, which is sending out a lot of really great roots that are white, but when you hydrate it, they immediately turn green. So it's a very healthy plant. It has flowered for me recently and at the moment is producing 2 new growths, the most advanced of which is, oops, this one here. So I would expect a flower spike from the base any time now. Let's just hang that up there. Yeah, it seems to be, well, quite a reliable one. So, okay, so moving to the orchid table, and we get an idea of my orchids in bloom spread at the moment. And I suppose the newest and most exciting thing that I have to tell you about now is this fantastic Oncidium noide hybrid, which I received from Archie, from the channel Archie's Orchids. Now, Archie sent me a box of orchids some time ago, and among them were various Cambria, Oncidium hybrids without any names, and this is the first of them to flower, and I'm really pleased with it. Beautiful thing. This one is still opening, spreading out fully, and this one is just spreading back now. It's hard to show the true colour in this light because it's evening time and the light is bad, but if anybody has an ID for this, I'd be very happy to hear it, and no doubt I'll show this again as it continues to open fully. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 flowers on that spike, and I'm really looking forward to it. Now compare that to Odontoglossum, or, well, Oncidium Alliance Stirbic Red, which is behind, and you can see that the Stirbic has much larger flowers than this new one. And I'm pleased that the Stirbic is back in flower again, just opening. As you can see, these are still quite folded in, but I adore these flowers, absolutely adore them. Now, I only seem to have one spike this year. Oh my goodness, should I complain about one spike? Well, I'm complaining. Well, not really. It's beautiful, isn't it? Really, really fantastic. People say that Oncidiums are boring. Oh my God, how could you possibly think that was boring? It's a fantastic orchid. Just next door to the Stirbic is a Phrag, and this is Ainsworthii, one that was sent to me by Eddie in England. Thank you very much, Eddie. And it is a sequential bloomer, and it just keeps blooming up and up. And I think I've actually forgotten to feature this in the Orchids in Bloom videos before, because it lives generally in a different place, or it used to live generally in a different place to the other orchids in bloom, so I'd never think of it when I made the video. But such a reliable flower and really, really pretty. My Pinocchio, Paphiopedilum Pinocchio, is still in flower as well, but actually it's not here. But never mind. Okay. So moving in here, what we have is the first of my twinkles to come into flower, and this is the cinnamon one, I believe, and beautifully coloured flowers. In fact, the whole of this table has a very reddy, orangey tinge to it altogether. Now, the twinkle that I was just looking at here, the flowers are its selling point, and last year I really found the scent quite unpleasant, very, very sharp. However, this year I must say it's not so bad. I don't find it unpleasant at all, so that's a definite plus. And I don't know how many spikes I have, but they're still coming. It's actually hard to count these. Behind it we have the Laturia type Dendrobium called Lutin Blanc, and this one is, well, it's definitely my most floriferous Dendrobium, no question about it. Doing magnificently with various spikes at various stages, and I'm not going to bother counting them, but just take it from me, it really is a great doer. And behind it, ta-da! It's my Schomburgkia, the second of the spikes to open, and this one has a glorious 3 blooms on it. Now, if you watched my live streaming with Astrid, I did show this plant on the live streaming, but it was the other spike, I think. No, maybe it was this spike, I'm not sure anyway. But this second spike is much prettier than the first, and really has gone a long way to turn me back in favour of this plant. I was disappointed by the fact that the flower spikes, which are supposed to grow, oh my goodness, like feet and feet tall, they didn't bother in this case. So why exactly that is, I don't know. And people say, oh, you're lucky, you know, they'd have grown so tall you wouldn't have been able to accommodate it in a house. Well, I say to those people, I would have liked to try. You know what? Like, if you're going to grow something and it's something exotic and outlandish like this, well, you know, part of the challenge is dealing with what the plant wants to do, which doesn't fit in. I was cheated of that opportunity, so I am actually a bit disappointed about that, but perhaps next year it will decide to send out those enormous spikes. In any case, I have a few flowers to keep me happy and keep me satisfied for the moment. Now the light is fading fast here, and you can tell by the fact that I'm having great difficulty getting these tiny little Phalaenopsis hybrid flowers into focus, and the colour is certainly completely off. But just to let you know that these are still growing strong, and surprisingly as well, Encyclia vitellina, it still has that flower looking as fresh as it did weeks ago. So I'm really pleased with that little orchid. Okay, so leaving Encyclia vitellina behind, we will just spend some time on the final shelving here, and at the very bottom we have my Cattlianthe final blue that I ordered from Schwerter and unboxed with Dimitri in October, and it came with buds that were white and very soon blasted. But the plant is doing very well, healthy roots and new growth, so I'm not at all worried. And here we have these Bromeliad. I'm not quite sure of the name, but again, you'll have to check it out in the extensive list of plant names I'll put in the details on this video. This was sent to me by Bjorn earlier this year, and it's doing really well. The cultivar is tricolour, and as you can see, it's got green, it's got cream, and it's got this reddy pink at the back of the leaves. In fact, it's got red and it's pink, so it's really quadricolor rather than tricolor, but it's doing really well. Directly above it, and this is a new plant for me, I believe to be Drimia or Scilla maritima, and we will have to see how it responds to being put over this glass vase in the way you do with hyacinths. The roots have been broken, so I'm trying to coax it into new root growth. And this bulb supposedly flowers in autumn, so sends up leaves in spring and flowers in autumn. So I'll have to wait a while for flowers. But the plan is to get it to start back into root growth and then pot it up in a gritty mix. So we will see how that goes. Directly above from it is my Joshua tree, which Orchid Dude Ben sent me, and I cherish very much. And I've taken this, I have no idea what its minimum temperature requirements might be, but I'm taking no chances anyway, and that's coming into the house. I think it's going to grow slow for me, but yeah, we shall allow it. Okay, and I think you can probably tell it's getting dark here by the yellow tinge that is all over the video now at this stage. It was much brighter when I started out. So I'm going to wrap this up, and in fact I finished telling you everything I wanted to tell you. So that's a good end to it, isn't it? Okay, thanks very much for watching. Please check back again for lots more planty videos. Bye.